Alright, hey everyone, and welcome to my new attempt at a YouTube channel. Over the last few years, I finally hit puberty, and apart from turning into a man-bear pig, the main sort of change that I've gone through is I've gone really into podcasting. I listened to a ton of them, and I even tried my hand at making them a couple times. The problem was, though, I wasn't very funny, and I sound like Gilbert Gottfried, but without the sexual charisma, so no one really wanted to watch him. But the thing is, I actually realized I was overqualified to do something else, to become a YouTube political pundit. And the reason for that is because I'm a white guy. I'm ugly as fuck. I have terrible hair. I'm stubborn. I'm completely unfunny. No one cares what I have to say. I lack any self-awareness. And there's a 33% chance I'm gay. The only issue, the only catch, is unlike everyone I've shown, I'm a socialist. I'm actually really far on the left side of the political spectrum. And for some reason, everyone I've shown, all the successful political YouTubers, are right-wing people. Like, they're all somewhere on the right side of the spectrum. And I was really wondering why that was, and that brings me to the real reason I'm making this video, to figure out why all these YouTube pundit people are all like right-wing reactionaries, and why there's no one like that on the left, at least not with any like level of success. And to figure out why that is, we need to look at what makes these people like what makes people watch these guys? Before we can do that, I need to explain to you who these guys are, and then I need to make fun of them, because that's how I wrote the script. Okay, let's start out with Ben Shapiro. He's your classic never-Trump conservative. He's had a longer career than a lot of these guys, and as far as I'm concerned, every one of these guys is just like reusing Ben Shapiro's assets with a different gimmick. And the important thing about Ben Shapiro is that he's definitely not racist. There's Jordan Peterson, who's a U of T prof, who likes to fight against the postmodern neo-Marxists who tried to turn him into Kermit the Frog but only got halfway.
And how many videos are going up on YouTube? What the hell? What?
There's Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA. He's a man with the intellect and voice of an 8-year-old trapped in a 12-year-old's body.
Joining us right now is founder and executive director of Turning Point USA, Mr. Charlie Kirk.
Hello, motherfucker.
There's my personal favorite, Steven Crowder. He's the only one of these guys who even attempts to try and be funny. You might recognize him from his sort of shitty memes on every video gaming forum that are somehow 1,000 times funnier than he could ever be, despite being less funny than AIDS. There's Dave Rubin's Cube, a man who calls himself the last classical liberal. And he shows this by agreeing with conservatives on absolutely every issue, no matter what, which is pretty close to what modern liberals do. Then there's Stéphane Molyneux, a libertarian idol and fellow Canadian. He's big in sort of like the taxation is theft community over there. And the thing about him is he's really into arguments and like rational debate and stuff. And if you disagree with him, it's because you're a terrorist who's gay for logical fallacies.
Not an argument. It's not an argument. It's not an argument.
There's Milos Yiannopoulos. There's Milos Monopoly Board, and he is... What the fuck is this guy's name? Milos something or another, and his big thing is he's like a Trump guy. And he's also like, he loves like stirring up shit and hair gel. Those are his two things. I'm not allowed to make a joke about him though, because apparently that would be homophobic. Okay, so why are these guys so popular? And I figure there's a lot of reasons, some more simple, some more complex. Some people just agree with these guys, and those people are fucking idiots. I wanted to focus on one thing though. a phrase that somehow melted my brain, and that phrase is conservative is the new punk rock.
When is taxation not theft? Is there a moral line that we can draw?
We're fighting for lower taxes, big tax cuts.
That was a well-documented intellectual argument that wove through what happened in communist Russia.
I don't need to be a global citizen, cause I'm blessed by nationality. I'm a member of a growing populace, we enforce our popularity.
Proposition based on nothing but emotional response.
I was looking at Jimmy Kimmel last night, and he said, well, for those of you on television all day that tell me not to talk about gun control, my First Amendment is just as important as your Second Amendment. Ben, what's your reaction to that?
Not an argument. It's not an argument. It's not an argument.
So when I first heard that phrase, I thought, it's gotta be like straight up the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Then I thought about it some more though, and I realized that I still felt that way. But then I spent like a week meditating on top of the Alps. And I realized that Ben Shapiro's tweet about Palestine and Israel was probably dumber. The reason that it's more accurate than Ben Shapiro's bullshit tweet about Arabs or whatever he said is because there is a tiny, tiny kernel of truth hidden away in the statement that's kind of, on a surface level, hard to notice. And the reason is because punk rock was never so much about the music as it was about the counterculture movement. It was a rebellion against the people in charge. That's why it's still so big. The music itself is way different than the stuff that started out in the 70s. But the spirit of the culture kind of remains the same. The music is all about sort of sticking it to the man or rebelling. So the reason that it sounds stupid at first is because conservatism by definition is just sticking to the status quo. It's about reinforcing traditional hierarchy. It's about reinforcing gender norms. It's about making sure that people in charge don't have to pay quite as much in taxes. But there is something about the fact that it was a counterculture movement. It was a response to the culture at the time. And that's what these guys kind of are. They are a response to they are a response to our culture, and our culture at the moment is liberalism. When I say that our culture is liberalism, what do I mean? Obviously, the people in charge of at least the American government and my home province's government right now are both conservatives. What I'm talking about is the actual sort of zeitgeist, the actual atmosphere we live in is liberal. Gay marriage is just like an open and shut case. It happened in the last like 3 years, but no one's fighting against it anymore. There's more representation for gay people. Black Panther was the biggest movie ever, despite being an overrated movie. It was meh at best. So, and these things on their own aren't like bad. Like, obviously they're actually quite good. But they're not enough, because people still have pretty crappy lives. People are still paying way more to get way less in certain issues like healthcare. People are working really long hours and getting shitty pay. And inequality is some of the biggest it's ever been, despite sort of having an appearance of a better life right now, because everyone has smartphones and stuff. So we still have these massive, like, problems. But the only people who seem to be willing to admit this are people like Ben Sharknado, people on the right. And the reason is because they can come out and say, hey, the problem is liberals, the problem is gay marriage, the problem is Obamacare. And these are the reasons you have these systems. It's because of the socialists. It's not because the people in charge are, like, fucking holding you upside down and shaking you for all your money. It's because the Democrats want you to pay for transgender surgery for illegal immigrants. Obviously bullshit. But the thing that draws people in isn't their argument. It's not that they inherently believe the things they say. It's the fact that they're the only ones who are admitting there is a problem. The people on the left aren't saying, hey, we need to replace Obamacare with something better. At least not the people you see on TV. They're just saying, hey, Obamacare is great, let's stop the Republicans from fucking it up. Well, Obamacare is not that great. It's a fucking bandage on a severed limb that is the American healthcare system. People are still paying out their ass and getting nothing in return. Nothing. So why? Why can't someone on the left do this? Why can't someone on the left say, hey, the problem is because the people in charge are exploiting you? And the people on the sort of like liberal government and the conservative government aren't doing enough to change it because they are getting money, they are getting donations, and they are getting their funding, and that's how they keep getting reelected, is because rich people say, hey, just don't do anything that'll like hurt my bottom line. So this is where I come in, the new messiah of the internet. How do we solve this? By subscribing to me. Everyone subscribe to me right now. There's this big issue going on between PewDiePie and T-Series, and they're trying to figure out who's going to be the most subscribed channel on YouTube. Fuck both of them, unsubscribe, subscribe to me. Click the little bell button. It does the same thing that the subscribe button should do. Okay? And once you've subscribed to me, if enough people do that, communism will win. Bernie Sanders will be in charge. No, obviously that's bullshit. That's not the solution. The solution is the people on the left, the liberals, the socialists, the progressives, whatever you want to call yourself, they need to admit that there is a problem right now. And they need to say, what is the problem? What is causing it? How do we change it? You can't just keep going on with, well, maybe if we had more Marvel movies with black people, then all our problems would be solved. No. It's kind of nice to have them. It's good for representation or whatever, but that's not a solution to any meaningful problems that people are experiencing. What you need to do is you need to come out and say, hey, the problem is rich people are fucking us over. Here's how we solve it.